energy needs. So, indeed, this is a very important measure that should have been in the climate change plan, and unfortunately, Liberals have not done that.
It's the time for questions and comments has expired, and I think we're just before the top of the hour, so we'll proceed with statements by members. Déclaration de député, l'honorable député de Alfred Pellan.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Alfred Pellan has many talented people who excel each and every day. And today, I'd like to highlight the distinction in various categories. Chloé Panetta, figure skating, and Sophie Gagnon-Metellus, a young singer who participated on Virtuoses. Jessica Del Negro in equestrian events, the winners of Dunamis 2017, Delia Shanafi, José Dufour, André Etu, the winners of the HoC 2017 prize, José Lefebvre, Monji Jetouni, Claude Lessard, Agathe Plante, among others, and many other people in my riding deserve mention. That's why I'm eager for July to arrive to hand out Canada 150 medals to the citizens who have been nominated as part of the competition I launched. 150 exceptional citizens. See my website for more information. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, how many times will we have to stand to denounce terrorism and its barbaric nature? How many times will we have to rise to tell families and loved ones that we stand with them in our hearts? To the injured people that we hope they recover quickly. How many more before we get accustomed to it, Mr. Speaker? London Bridge will not fall, and Manchester will remain united. We will stand in solidarity with them. And it's because of this solidarity that we urge the government and the entire world to do their utmost to stop terrorism that is affecting our lives. These crimes must be stopped. Is this the universe we want to see our children grow in? It's our responsibility to take action in the memory of the victims and for future generations.
The member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, with Canada's 150th birthday fast approaching, I proudly rise in the House to share a little piece of history stemming from my riding at Caribou, Prince George. The first Dominion Day in Barkerville, British Columbia took place just past midnight, July 1st, 1868, before BC was even part of Canada. Unfortunately, cannons were in short supply, so black powder charges were detonated between stacked anvils, providing an improvised 21-gun salute. I'm told the celebration was filled with games, laughter, and of course, fireworks. Mr. Speaker, historical records would suggest that Barkerville began celebrating Dominion Day 11 years before it was even officially nationally celebrated. Once again, we're presented with an example of true pioneering spirit of the Caribou, and as we reflect on the past and now look forward to the 150th celebrations happening in just a few short weeks, I wish you and your families all a happy Canada Day and indeed a happy Dominion Day.
Hear, hear. L'honorable député de Madawaska.
The Honourable Member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, June is a very special month. It announces the start of summer, but also that the school year is ending.
Wish all of the 2017 grads of Madawaska-Restigouche the best of luck in their choices after high school graduation. Qu'ils soient finis.
Be they graduates of the Aux Quatre Vents d'Alhousie, the Comprehensive High School Roland Pépin in Campbellton, Marie-Gaëtane de Kedgwick, Alexandre J. Savoie de Saint-Quentin, Grande Rivière de Saint-Léonard, or
Regional High School, Campbellton Sugarloaf Senior High School, or Edmundston St. Mary's Academy, our young people are now entering a new chapter in their lives. Chers finissants.
Dear graduates, I wish you the best in your choices for the future.
University are jumped immediately into the labor market. Quels que soient vos choix.
Regardless of your choice, jump right in to your new life and make the best contribution you can.
And good luck to all those who are graduating in 2017.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, this government has been vociferous in defending their legislative and policy agenda, alleging they're protecting the environment while supporting economic development. But these claims are roundly discredited even by their own expert panels, who report that public credibility in federal processes for reviewing and approving major energy projects is seriously broken. Significant environmental impacts are being given short shrift, including to transboundary waters, Indigenous right and title, threatened species and habitat, and to feasible, less impacting alternatives. The growing number of lawsuits by Indigenous communities offers similar evidence of a deeply eroded trust in the government. Canadians, and particularly impacted communities and Indigenous peoples, are demanding a voice well beyond individual projects in reviews. They want a seat at the table to ensure energy law and policy reflects their environment, social, cultural priorities. On World Environment Day, is it too much to hope for real change to finally give Canadians a voice in their energy future?
The honourable member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, je voudrais souhaiter bonne...
Mr. Speaker, I would like to wish the Muslim community in Scarborough-Guildwood a peaceful and blessed Ramadan.
Where Muslims around the world engage in spiritual reflection, acts of charity, and good deeds. They are reminded of the suffering of those less fortunate and contemplate the values of compassion, empathy, and generosity. Le Ramadan est le...
Ramadan is a time for renewing faith and strengthening bonds between family and friends.
I wish all those celebrating in my community and across the country Ramadan Mubarak. Que votre jeûne et votre...
As you fast and offer prayers, may you find greater peace, joy, and enlightenment.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that all members will join me in recognizing and commending among our fellow Canadians those Muslims who are fasting during this month of Ramadan. In Canada, we proudly respect the hard-won right of all people to practice their faith. Unfortunately, some Muslim communities around the world will face severe discrimination as they seek to undertake this religious practice. Muslim Uyghurs in China face various efforts by the government to prevent them from fasting. Restaurants being forced to remain open, people being forced into 24-hour guard shifts, which make fasting virtually impossible, and students being forced to watch communist propaganda films on the day of their prayers. At least one school, students are regularly forced by administrators to eat and drink. Uyghurs, as well as Tatars in Russian-occupied Ukraine and Rohingya in Burma, face severe religious and ethnic discrimination. And Muslim minority communities continue to face severe religious discrimination in many Muslim-majority countries. Rather than continue to curry favor with brutal human rights violators, Canada must be a strong voice for justice and religious freedom. Ramadan Mubarak.
Député d'Honoré Mercier.
The honourable member for Honoré Mercier.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in this House to honour the memory of parliamentarians who have left us in the past year. I want to thank them for dedicating their lives to serving Canadians. As everybody knows in this House, parliamentarians often sacrifice careers and precious family time in order to contribute to Canada's thriving and stable democracy. And ils font ces sacrifices, Monsieur.
And, Mr. Speaker, they make those sacrifices because they believe in our country, our democracy, and in the importance of contributing to the advancement of our society. They are among those men and women who, over the decades, have given their best to build a strong, united, and prosperous Canada that is open to the world. And these colleagues will live forever in our collective memories. We thank them, Mr. Speaker, for their courage, their determination, their desire to build a better future for all Canadians.
For your precious contribution to our country, you will never, never be forgotten.
The honourable member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, bon dia a todos. I rise today to announce that tomorrow, June 6th, the Canada-Portugal Parliamentary Friendship Group will be hosting our second annual Portugal Day on the Hill celebration. This year, everyone is welcome to join us in the East Block courtyard from noon to 2 p.m. for a delicious Portuguese barbecue. Please come hungry. Portugal Day, June 10th, is celebrated both in Portugal and around the world by Portuguese. It is a special day of pride for me, both as a Portuguese immigrant that came to Canada at the age of 2 with my family, and as a resident of Mississauga, a city that I'm happy to call home to over 20,000 Portuguese Canadians, many of whom are constituents of mine living in the riding of Mississauga East Cooksville. Portugal Day honors the date of the death of the 16th century poet Luís de Camões, who captured the word in Portugal's Age of Discovery. To our Portuguese community across Canada.
The honourable member for Calgary-Shepherd.
This past weekend, I joined fellow Calgarians on a journey of all things Ukraine at the 8th Annual Calgary Ukrainian Festival. Every year, this Calgary Festival aims to inform, educate, and entertain in the celebration of the beautiful customs and traditions of Ukraine. It offers unique and rich Ukrainian heritage brought to Canada over 125 years ago. I want to take the opportunity to honor the memory of all those brave Ukrainians that traversed the oceans in search of a better life for their families and who, in the process, proudly contributed to the rich cultural history of Canada. Through Ukrainian folk songs, dance performances, traditional cuisine, arts and crafts, and especially beautiful pishanka eggs, this weekend's festival offered Canadians of all backgrounds the opportunity to gain an appreciation and experience true Ukrainian hospitality undiminished by the passage of time. I would like to congratulate the organizers, including my friend Michael Elnicki, on another successful festival that showcases the rich and vibrant culture of Calgary's Ukrainian community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my riding of Sault Ste. Marie and all Canadians, for the second year in a row, I'm honoured to rise in the House and extend a warm welcome to members of the Canadian Steel Producers Association as they partake in their annual Steel Days on Parliament Hill. Domestic steel operations directly employ over 22,000 middle-class Canadians while supporting an additional 100,000 indirect jobs. Wow. The Canadian steel producers are the national voice of Canada's $14 billion steel industry. Member companies, which include Algoma, Tenaris, annually produce approximately 13 million tons of primary steel and over 1 million tons of steel pipe and tube products in Canadian facilities. Canadian steel supporters a healthy Canadian economy which benefits Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Please join with me in welcoming members of the Canadian Steel Producers Association to Parliament Hill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Saint-Laurent.
The honourable member for Saint-Laurent. The Saint-Laurent Mount Royal Chamber of Commerce and Industry held its Alpha Gala last Thursday, and I had the pleasure of attending. I'm proud to say that this is an event that showcases
Biotherapeutics, BlueMed Medical Supplies, Brivia Group, as well as Legal Logic and many others are few of the outstanding examples of what we can accomplish together.
I'd also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce as well as Saint Laurent Economic Development for all the support they provide these companies in the riding. Thank you for your contribution to the creation of jobs and opportunities for thousands of Canadians.
With you all to help our community thrive.
Honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, June is Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Month and is dedicated to raising awareness of those who it affects. This month is also meant to teach all of us how we can help those who suffer from PTSD. As a former firefighter, I'm very proud to have supported the work done by the member of Cariboo Prince George on Bill C-211, an act respecting a federal framework on post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD does not discriminate. It can affect anyone at any age, at any time, at any stage of their lives. It affects those in combat situations, veterans, first responders, and other occupations like doctors and nurses. I'd also like to recognize the work of Natalie Harris, a Barrie resident who, as a paramedic, suffers from PTSD, but it doesn't prevent her from selflessly helping others with PTSD. Natalie was in Ottawa last month testifying at Health Committee. She's an inspiration to me and to so many others. Let's all work together, Mr. Speaker, to raise awareness and help those suffering from PTSD.
Honourable member for Mississauga Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Islamic Relief Canada on 10 years of success, growth and accomplishments. IRC is a humanitarian organization that provides assistance to the most needy at home and abroad. At home, they were there for Fort McMurray after the wildfires. They supported soup kitchens in Iqaluit and helped resettle hundreds of refugees across Canada. Internationally, they're combating gender-based violence, raising awareness against female genital mutilation, campaigning against hunger, and responding to natural and human-made disasters. This year, they're celebrating their 10th year in Canada. During those years, they've helped 30 million individuals, regardless of their race, faith, gender, or sexuality. That's almost the entire population of Canada. I want to thank Islamic Relief Canada staff, past and present, board of directors, volunteers, and supporters for being exemplary global citizens who represent the best of humanity.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, 30-year-old Christine Archibald from Castlegar, BC, was killed on London Bridge when 3 terrorists turned a van into a weapon and targeted civilians walking on that bridge. She was one of 7 people who lost their lives in the horrifying attacks. Her fiancé, Tyler, watched her die in his arms. This is such a tragic loss, almost beyond comprehension. Christine has been described as a bright light by those around her. She dedicated her life to helping the homeless and people suffering from addictions. Her family said that she had room in her heart for everyone and believed everyone was to be valued and respected. Her life deserved that same respect. On behalf of all New Democrats, we extend our deepest condolences to Christine's family and loved ones. We are so very sorry for your loss.
Honourable member for Portage Lisgar.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, the people of the UK were once again viciously attacked by a group of radical Islamic extremists. This follows a string of attacks in Manchester, Kabul, and the attack in Egypt that targeted and killed 28 Christians. These Islamic extremist thugs and cowards are the lowest form of humanity. They are weak and they are impotent and they are only filled with hatred. There is no excuse for their existence and there is no excuse for their actions. As Canadians, we must remain vigilant, but we must also join with our allies to confront and destroy radical Islamic extremism and terrorism in all its forms. Mr. Speaker, this latest attack hit us here at home. A Canadian woman from BC, Christine Archibald, is among those killed. She had moved to the UK to be with her fiancé, Tyler. Chrissy was a social worker, dedicating her life to those who are less fortunate. She was known as generous, kind-spirited, and a bright light. Today, we honor those who lost their lives in London, and we reaffirm that light, like the light Chrissy showed, will always, always outshine the darkness.
Honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, it's with great sadness I rise to share our condolences with the family and friends of those killed in the attack on London this past weekend. We grieve with those who have lost their lives, wishing all those injured a full and speedy recovery. Our thoughts and prayers are especially with the family of Canadian Christine Archibald in their time of immense loss. Mr. Speaker, Christine's family recently wrote that she had room in her heart for everyone and believed strongly that every person was to be valued and respected. They added that she would have had no understanding of the calculous cruelty that caused her death and call on us to honor her by making our communities better places. Mr. Speaker, these hateful acts do not deter us. They only make us stronger and strengthen our resolve and bring out the best in our nature. Our response remains consistent when confronted with violence, Mr. Speaker. We stand together with our allies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the attack in London and to commemorate Christine Archibald from Castlegar in British Columbia. I now invite honourable members to stand. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, our friends and allies in the United Kingdom were once again attacked by radical Islamic terrorists. I want to thank the Prime Minister for his statement, and I trust that all members stand in solidarity at this time. A Canadian, Chrissy Archibald from British Columbia, was a victim, and her family is asking Canadians to, quote, volunteer their time and labor or donate to a homeless shelter. Tell them Chrissy sent you. I want to echo that sentiment today. Can the Prime Minister please provide us with an update as to the government's response and reaction to this latest act of terror?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
With sadness that I rise and offer our condolences to the family and friends of Christine Archibald, who was a victim of Saturday's horrific attacks in London. As I reaffirmed with Prime Minister May an hour ago, we stand in solidarity with the British people. La population du Royaume-Uni.
The people of the UK have always shown strength and resilience in the face of adversity.
Les Canadiens sont solidaires.
Canadians stand in solidarity with the British people and with our allies and friends and communities.
And thank the Leader of the Official Opposition for his question. I look forward to working with him on issues of import to all Canadians.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is deceiving people about the infrastructure bank. He refuses to admit that taxpayers will be on the hook for bad projects. But we have learned that investors are being told that the bank will underwrite all the loans and that they will be able to keep the profits. Can the Prime Minister say once and for all who's going to foot the bill for bad projects, investors or Canadian taxpayers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that we have infrastructure needs. We need to invest, and that's the choice they made in the last election. They voted for a party that was ambitious about roads and investing in public transit, in green infrastructure, to build for the future, to support our communities today and in the future. The needs for infrastructure are so striking all across the country that even with historic investments of hundreds of billions of dollars, that hasn't been enough, and that's why we've come up with a new mechanism to build even more infrastructure for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Investments in infrastructure came from the Conservative government. But now, the Prime Minister's billionaire friends have talked him into the infrastructure bank. And guess what? Canadians will have to pay for it. But it's not too late to do the right thing. He can listen to those who have raised serious concerns about this $35 billion boondoggle waiting to happen. Will the Prime Minister put the brakes on this scheme, or does he really want to force Canadian taxpayers to co-sign loans for the richest 1%?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we lowered taxes for the richest, we raised taxes for the wealthiest 1% and lowered them for the middle class, which unfortunately the members opposite voted against. We're committed to making sure that middle-class Canadians get the infrastructure they need, get the community services, the green infrastructure, the public transit that is so necessary. So on top of our $180 billion towards infrastructure, we know that drawing in private capital from around the world will get more things built for Canadians, will grow our economy, and create a better future for our kids.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's message to foreign investors is no credit, no problem.
On another point, for weeks we've been calling on the Heritage Minister to cancel the partisan appointment of Ms. Meyer as Commissioner of Official Languages, but unfortunately, the position has become politicized with the appointment of a Liberal, and it's ridiculous. Will the Prime Minister show some common sense here and scrap the appointment of Ms. Meyer? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we set up an appointment process that is open, transparent, and merit-based. After 10 years of a government that always made partisan appointments, we're making choices. We're choosing the right people regardless of their political past. Canadians have to have confidence that the best people are in those positions, and that's why we have undertaken to do precisely that. We have sought out people from various backgrounds to serve, and we will continue to do that. The Honourable Leader.
Count on about Liberals is that eventually they start acting like Liberals. And now Canadians are seeing the Prime Minister once again put the interests of Liberal insider ahead of the integrity of our institutions. This time he's trying to ram through the appointment of Madeleine Mayer as Official Languages Commissioner. And he wants us to believe that the only person qualified to serve in this non-partisan role just happens to be a lifelong Liberal who supported his leadership campaign. But nobody's buying it. When will the Prime Minister do the right thing, cancel this tainted nomination, and start a non-partisan process?
All right. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we came to power, we had to create a non-partisan process because the previous government had so politicized the appointments processes. One simply needs to remember the 49 last-minute partisan appointments they made in the dying days of their own government. The fact, Mr. Speaker, is we will not hold against any candidate who's qualified their past political affiliations. Canadians expect us to pick the very best people for the jobs, and that's exactly what we always do.
Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, a few points. The Infrastructure Privatization Bank is going to charge user fees. The Board of Directors will come entirely from the private sector. No one from the public sector. Only the most profitable projects for investors will be approved. When the government borrows, the rates are very low, but that shows up on the books. When it's administered by investors over a 30-year period, it costs more, but you don't see it. Is this so-called bank a tricky way of limiting deficit growth by getting those charges off the books? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, the Infrastructure Bank will make it possible to create new investments in infrastructure that goes beyond what we've put on the table with historic amounts. We know that Canadians need more public transit, more investment in roadways and bridges and commercial infrastructure, green infrastructure, and that's precisely what this bank will do. It will make it possible to provide the infrastructure Canadians need now and will in the future.
What
he doesn't say, Mr. Speaker, is that those investments are going to come at a high cost to Canadians who want to know why it is that they can't get Liberals in government to behave like the Liberals that they vote for at election time. For instance, the Liberals that promise an infrastructure bank that would, quote, provide loan guarantees and small capital contributions to provinces and municipalities, not the BlackRock Group. Nothing about user fees and tolls, nothing about taxpayers taking on private risk. Liberals ran on a program that would have benefited communities, but once elected, turned it into a $35 billion slush fund for their international corporate buddies, and we want to know, where's their sense of shame?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, I was very pleased to attend the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meeting last week, where we were congratulated for being such extraordinary partners to municipalities across the country. As we've demonstrated that we understand how important municipalities are as partners, how much the federal government needs to be there to both provide capital and unlock capital so municipalities and provinces can achieve everything they want for their citizens. That's our focus. That's why we work so well with municipalities and provinces. That's what we will continue to do for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Elmwood Transcona.
I wonder how many of the small communities that are going to be left out of the infrastructure bank were clapping when that was made. Every few days, new revelations come out about the Liberal pick for the Official Languages Commissioner and her connection to the Liberal Party, to the PMO, and to the Heritage Minister's own office. The partisanship in this appointment is so blatant, Mr. Speaker, that today a minority languages group out of New Brunswick will be seeking a legal injunction to stop it. So what's it going to take for this Prime Minister to admit that this time he's gone too far? And when is he going to finally stop pretending that Madame Mayer can be seen as an independent officer of Parliament?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you go back, I recommend that the member opposite actually look at our budget, where he'll see $2 billion for small communities, because we understand how important small communities are for the future of our country. On the issue of merit-based appointments, we will not hold against any qualified candidate their background in politics. We know Canadians expect the very top qualified people to serve their country. That's what we look for. That's why we were proud to choose former Prime Minister Kim Campbell to serve as helping us choose our next political next Supreme.
Order. Honorable député de Rosemont.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, this is starting to be a real joke. Every day the Prime Minister blathers on about the middle class. I'd like to challenge him on the reality out there, but I can't do it, Mr. Speaker. I can't, because this Prime Minister runs roughshod over officers of Parliament and the value of official languages in Canada. So much so that he's now the target of an injunction. Will the Prime Minister show some respect for our minority language communities and cancel the appointment of Ms. Meyer? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians expect appointments to be the highest quality in terms of merit. We are choosing the right people for their appointments, not on a partisan basis. And we will not hold people's political pasts against them. And that's what people expect. We will continue to champion official languages in this country, and we will continue to defend the best candidates for the positions available.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We just learned that La Société de l'Acadie du Nouveau-Brunswick has filed an injunction in federal court to block the appointment of a partisan nominee in the position of Madeleine Meyer for Official Languages Commissioner. We know that her appointment has lost the trust of key official languages communities, the people that she will be entrusted to represent. Yet they're filing court injunctions to block this partisan nomination. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing, withdraw the nomination, go back to the drawing board, and appoint someone without key donations to the Liberal Party?
Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, in the context of the appointment of the Official Languages Commissioner, we were committed to find the most qualified candidate, and that's exactly what we've done by appointing Madeleine Meyer as becoming the next Official Languages Commissioner, because she has the expertise and the experience. And therefore, I would like also to remind my colleagues that 95 leaders of the Francophone community called upon this House to make sure to stop the political games and make sure to support Madeleine Meyer, because she is a very good
Honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Well, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the political games are being played by that party who is going to their donation list to make partisan appointments as officers of this place. Now, last week, the Minister of Canadian Heritage said there was a firewall between her and the staff members in her office who worked directly with and for Madeleine Meyer. That not a single ounce of evidence has been laid before this House of any proof that this firewall took place and was in place before she was appointed as Official Languages Commissioner. Now, so I want to ask the Minister, what evidence can she share with this House that the firewall existed before the nomination took place?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
opportunity in this House to explain the process many times. There were 72 candidates that participated in the process. An independent firm went through all the CVs afterwards. There were 12 candidates that were passing interviews. 10 of them went through testing, and also there was reference checks that were done, and ultimately there was a small list of candidates that I had the chance to interview. And in the end, because of the great expertise and experience of Madeleine Meyer, she was clearly the best qualified candidate to become the official language.
Order, we don't need constant interruptions when someone is speaking. The
honourable member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, breach of trust, partisanship, shifting ethical standards, just to name a few. The Liberals are bringing us back in time all the way to the sponsorship scandal, when they threw the doors open to cronies who funded the party. Today they appoint their donors. Too bad if you're not one of them. Ms. Meyer is a perfect example. When is the Heritage Minister going to stop making things up and tell us the truth and reboot the selection process. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, for this position, we wanted to have a thorough merit-based process, and we wanted to choose the most qualified candidate. That's precisely what we did. There was a whole process, there were interviews, and Ms. Meilleur emerged as the most experienced and most expert candidate. I'd also like to remind my colleagues here in the House that 95 Francophone leaders have called on members of the House to stop the political games and support the appointment of Ms. Meilleur. The honourable member, a new week begins and the answers aren't exactly forthcoming. Imagine if I donated $5,000 to the Conservative Party and $500 to Mr. Harper's leadership bid, and suddenly I got appointed Commissioner of Official Languages. Can you imagine the Liberal Party's reaction? There'd be howls of anger, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. It's time they realize they're not above the law. Should we call for a public inquiry into the selection process? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. I'd like to reassure my colleague that if she had applied for the position, she may well have been the successful candidate. Of course, we respect, as the Prime Minister said a number of times, we respect the public service. And
le passé et une carrière en politique est un fait que nous avons pris en compte comme étant une partie.
That is a factor that we took into account. Was there a problem with the interpretation? Is it working now?
Member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have managed to do the impossible. They've turned the selection of a non-partisan appointment into one of the most divisive issues in years among Acadian and Francophone communities. Michelle Doucette of the University of Moncton, one of 10 other candidates for the position of Official Languages Commissioner, says the Liberals have made the selection process too political. He's also on record as saying that the Liberals have lost all credibility over the Meilleur nomination. Mr. Speaker, why isn't the Prime Minister listening to those who don't want the partisan games to continue and want the process of appointing this officer of Parliament to be redone?
Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind the expertise and experience of Madeleine Meilleur to my colleague. For 30 years, she's been a very strong advocate in the favor of the promotion and protection of official languages in this country. She was there at a time where there needed to have an intervention to protect the hospital for the Francophone community in Ottawa. She was there for the first battles to make sure ultimately that there would be official languages rights that would be set in place, and therefore that has been her battle throughout her.
The honourable member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this sham of a process is anything but open and transparent. Madeleine Meilleur is a major Liberal donor, and her key former staff now work for the Heritage Minister in the exact same capacity. If we're expected to believe that this is a coincidence, then my chances of being hit by lightning while holding the winning Lotto 649 ticket and being a guest on Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest is pretty good. Mr. Speaker, everyone knows the fix is in. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and start a new and fair search for Canada's next Official Languages Commissioner?
Minister of Canadian Heritage.
The experience, the expertise, the integrity of Mrs. Meilleur has been recognized by many, both sides of this House, and I, of course, would like to remind my colleague about her experience. The fact that she's been involved in the protection of the Montfort Hospital to ensure access to health care in both official languages, especially the Francophone community, and also the fact that she was a champion for the creation of the French Language Service Commissioner in the Ontario government certainly makes her as a very strong candidate to become the next Official Languages Commissioner. Thank you.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, since the Liberals undertook to legalize marijuana, 15,000 people, 7,000 of whom are under 25, have been arrested for possession. This government keeps saying the law still stands. They can't help young people who get stuck with a criminal record. All this for something the Prime Minister himself admits to having done. It's a double standard. Can the Minister for Youth stand up in the House and explain his plan to save young people from having a criminal record for life? The Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we've stated many times, our government is committed to legalizing, strictly regulating, and restricting access to cannabis. The process that is in place right now simply is not working. That is why we've engaged a task force that provided substantive recommendations, health experts, justice experts, public safety experts. We've introduced legislation. I hope that all members in this House move this legislation forward so we have a system that is in place and we have a comprehensive regime that we have built with provinces and territories.
Honourable Member for Cowichan-Malahat-Langford.
Mr. Speaker, we've just learned that since the Liberals were elected, more than 15,000 Canadians have been charged for simple possession of marijuana. Now, the Prime Minister is admitted to smoking pot and recently said that his family's contacts helped get his brother off of a possession charge. He said that they were confident that their resources and connections would be able to, quote, make the problem go away. So would the Prime Minister be willing to share those lawyers' contact information to the 15,000 Canadians charged for the exact same crime?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, we're committed to legalizing, strictly regulating and restricting access to cannabis in order to keep it out of the hands of children and the profits out of the hands of criminals. Simply decriminalizing at this time will not achieve those objectives. That is why we're committed to working very diligently now that we've introduced legislation with the provinces and territories so we can have a comprehensive regime in place in this country.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, every parent deserves the right to know if a high-risk sex offender moves into their neighbourhood. And yet, unbelievably, the Minister of Public Safety is considering scrapping a publicly accessible sex offender registry out of concern for, get this, the rights of high-risk sex offenders. Mr. Speaker, how in good conscience can the Minister of Public Safety stand in the way of the right of parents to know if a high-risk sex offender moves in next door?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, that is entirely untrue and unfortunately very histrionic. Our government takes very seriously the safety of our children. It ensures that law enforcement and communities have the tools they need to keep our children safe. When a potentially dangerous offender is about to be released from prison, the Correctional Services alerts police. If police determine there's a danger, they alert the public. We make sure that everyone is kept safe.
Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Speaker, time and again, the Liberals place the rights of criminals first, whether it be opposing mandatory sentences for violent offenders or now putting the rights of sex offenders ahead of the rights of parents to know if one has moved in next door. Instead of worrying about sex offenders, why won't the Minister for once do the right thing and put the rights of parents and the rights of children first?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the member can keep repeating the same nonsense, but it doesn't make it true. The reality is, and it's important to state, that every single member in this House takes the responsibility of protecting children incredibly seriously. And when the member stands in his place and casts aspersions that somehow we don't care as much as he does, it is unbefitting of this place. I will say to you that we take the safety of our children, we take the safety of our communities and the safety of our families with the utmost seriousness and act every day and comport ourselves.
Order. I hope that the Parliamentary Secretary... Order. 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 Kelly. Order. I hope that the Parliamentary Secretary is referring to the chair when he uses the word you. Of course he should be. The Honourable Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' partisan interim procurement to replace our aging CF-18s has turned into a full-on boondoggle. First, experts told the government we don't need an interim measure. Now, the Liberals have suspended talks with Boeing to purchase 18 Super Hornets, citing that they are no longer a trusted partner because the Liberals want to protect Bombardier's bottom line. Wow. So much for the minister's fabricated capability gap. Is the defense minister trying to protect his rich friends at Bombardier, or is he looking for an excuse to get out of this terrible and ill-advised sole-source deal with Boeing?
National defense.
Announced a number of measures for making sure that we're ahead very quickly as possible to be able to replace the fighter fleet with an open competition, replacing the entire fleet. We're investing in the legacy fleet as well, Mr. Speaker. We're also training new pilots as well, Mr. Speaker, and we're continuing our discussions with the U.S. government for the interim gap measure as well. Thank you.
The honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, for months, the defense minister has been telling us that the government had urgent reasons of national security to go ahead with its ill-advised plan to buy 18 Super Hornets from Boeing. Do they really think we can't see through that? Is this government just trying to protect Bombardier's interests, which it's putting ahead of Canadian safety and respect for our NATO and NORAD commitments? Will the minister admit he was the architect of a phony capability gap and finally launch an open and transparent procurement process now?
Mr. Speaker, the previous government believed that risk managing the capability gap between our NORAD and NATO commitments were adequate. But for us, it's not, Mr. Speaker. We will be replacing the entire fleet of fighters with an open competition. We'll be also investing in the legacy fleet, and our discussions with the U.S. government will continue to have an interim gap measure as well. Thank you.
Honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bigot. Today is World Environment Day. The Liberals promised to reinstate measures to protect our lakes and rivers, but they're instead maintaining conservative policy. The current president of the Treasury Board said that the previous government's changes were catastrophic and dangerous for all our lakes and rivers. In my riding, the Noire, Yamaska, and La Reine rivers are suffering from this broken promise. If the Liberals really take the environment to heart, when will they re-establish protection measures for all our lakes and rivers? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our goal is to re-establish many protection measures which were taken away by the previous government. Recently, we received the report from the Transport Committee, which made a number of recommendations. We appreciate those recommendations, and we are going to continue to work over the summer, particularly consulting with Indigenous peoples, and we will reestablish major measures to protect our navigable waters. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, the government was really happy to hide behind you last week and dodge the question, but now that you've ruled it admissible, we're going to try again. Given the ongoing labor dispute affecting our protective service here on the Hill and the employer's refusal to negotiate, will the Prime Minister consider amending the Parliament of Canada Act to ensure the independence of our protective service? The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. As she knows very well, all the members of this House, including the government, thank the men and women who work for the Parliamentary Protective Service. They are men and women who do remarkable work protecting not only MPs and those who work here, but also those who visit the Parliament. The conflict that she has referred to is a discussion between the Parliamentary Protective Service and the union, which represents employees under the Bureau of Internal Economy. We believe that it's important to respect the process and to see discussions continue.
Hespler.
Mr. Speaker, with the growth and importance of the digital economy and digital service in Canada, access to a reliable telecommunications service at an affordable price is essential for Canadians. However, Canadians currently pay some of the highest prices for wireless and internet services compared to developed countries. Many in rural and remote communities still don't have full, reliable coverage. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Innovation share with us what the government plans to do to ensure Canadians have access to reliable, affordable wireless internet services? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Kitchener South Hespeler for his question. And he is absolutely correct that in the digital and knowledge economy, we need to end the digital divide. That's why this morning I announced a set of measures that will help us enable technology to promote more competition and more investment in the telecommunications sector. This will provide better quality networks, also broad-based coverage in our rural and remote communities, and affordable prices. That means lower prices and better choice for consumers, Mr. Speaker. This is part of our overall innovation and skills plan that will help the middle class.
Honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Investors are being told that the Infrastructure Bank is the cornerstone of the infrastructure plan. Investors have access to the largest and most lucrative infrastructure projects in the country. But municipalities are being told by the Prime Minister that the bank is just a tool, just an option. But let's be clear, this bank is designed to give private investors a return as high as 20% on the backs of taxpayers. Why are the Liberals telling investors one thing and taxpayers another?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Mr. Speaker, unlike the Harper government, we respect local decision-making and we allow local municipalities to determine which procurement model they want to use. Bank is an optional tool available to them, as Prime Minister has stated to them on Friday. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, our plan is very much appreciated by Federation of Canadian Municipalities and many other partners, and they gave twice a standing ovation to the Prime Minister in recognition of the commitment that we have shown to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are you negotiating with the bank or are you negotiating with Cabinet? That was the Ontario Teacher Pension Plan Board who said that to the Senate Banking Committee on May the 18th. How can Canadians have any confidence or trust in this government when even the investors who the Liberals claim will benefit from this bank are questioning its integrity?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I'm puzzled by the honourable member's question. Because at one time, she accuses us of being too close with private sector, with pension funds. On the other hand, she's telling us that government will have too much power on decision making. We have created a right balance. We will allow the bank to be an arm's length organization, making decisions on its own, but still be accountable to the Parliament, because we want to make sure that we undertake projects that are in the public interest, that help grow our economy and create opportunities for middle class and also help for our prosperous.
Honourable member.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you the story of the Infrastructure Bank. Well, first, the Liberals announced the creation of a bank to supposedly help municipalities. Then, they took away $15 billion that had been earmarked for municipalities. Then, they realized that their figures don't add up and that they would lead to a deficit and that only projects worth over $100 million would be accepted. And then what did the Liberals do? Well, they asked their buddies at BlackRock to make decisions for them. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you right now that this story doesn't end well. When will they bring an end to this infrastructure bank?
Infrastructure communities. Mr. Speaker, we have tripled our infrastructure investments compared to the last government. And FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, calls Budget 2017 a game changer for municipalities. We are committed to investing in infrastructure, and only a small portion, 10% of the entire infrastructure plan, will be delivered through the bank. We are committed to supporting every municipality, regardless of their size, big urban centers, mid-sized cities, all small cities, because we understand the diversity of our...
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue the story that I started with my previous question. Next, the parliamentary budget offer raised transparency issues with the bank. After that, the National Assembly in Quebec adopted a unanimous motion calling for changes to the bank. Then, all the powers are given to the Prime Minister to choose the leaders of the bank. What's next? Well, the committee only got an hour and a half to study this bank, which is going to take $35 billion of taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are...
Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, as I have said many times, that bank is only one optional tool available to municipalities when it comes to supporting infrastructure that their communities need. So let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, what the International Monetary Fund has to say about the bank. It says the proposed Canada Infrastructure Bank will be an effective instrument in achieving this goal, which is to grow our economy, create opportunities for the middle class, and provide the necessary support that our municipalities need to build the infrastructure they need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, DFO announced it will end the popular education program, Salmon in the Classroom. For 40 years, this valuable program taught hundreds of thousands of students about the salmon life cycle. For a salmon-dependent region like British Columbia, to lose this cost-effective program is shameful. Hundreds of teachers, students, and parents have expressed their profound disappointment at this Liberal cut. They want the funding restored. So can the minister provide a clear explanation why he made the reckless decision to kill the Salmon in the Classroom program?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government has invested massively in marine science and ocean protection, in habitat protection. We're proceeding, I hope, this fall in collaboration with the members of the Standing Committee to restore lost protections that were taken out of the Fisheries Act. We recognize the important contribution that the Salmonid Enhancement Program has played for a long time, in particular and including the work of volunteers across the province of British Columbia, including in the classrooms. I was in Victoria last week to announce a significant investment in exactly this kind of initiative, and we'll work with these groups, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that this important work continues.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, public consultations on Canada's first national law for people living with disabilities identified key issues that need to be addressed immediately. Canadians voiced a strong preference for an independent body to oversee compliance with the new laws. Will the minister create an independent body to monitor the upcoming Accessibility Act and enforce the compliance with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities? Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for her continued work on this very important file. Mr. Speaker, we heard from thousands of Canadians about what an accessible Canada would look like to them. We heard about the barriers that they continue to face as we try and navigate this complex world that wasn't necessarily built for us. Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that we've had many excellent suggestions from Canadians, including specifically with respect to enforcement and compliance. We're looking at these, and I look forward to this continued discussion as we craft this new law and have discussions in the House. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's oil and gas is a model for energy development everywhere, but the forces of no are conspiring against Canadian energy workers. One said, and I quote, "2/3 of fossil fuels must remain underground." Who said that? Well, it was Zoe Caron, the anti-energy activist who is the new Chief of Staff to the Minister of Natural Resources.
That's a good sign.
Crucial energy and pipeline projects hang in the balance. How can Canadians trust the Minister to do what's clearly in the national interest instead of serving the Chief of Staff's agenda?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a government, we understand the challenge workers and their families have had over the last while with the downturn in commodity prices. Our support for the energy sector, as was heard last week in this House, remains clear. The Prime Minister has clearly said we have approved the Kinder Morgan pipeline and we will stand resolute with that approval. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Well, the Prime Minister said he wants to phase out the oil sands, and the Liberals won't say the facts, which is that Canada's oil and gas is the most environmentally and socially responsible in the world. And longtime anti-energy activist Zoe Caron said, quote, "Canada's decision to keep expanding and developing the tar sands is an example for other nations of what not to do." Wow. Now she's in charge of all political decisions in the minister's office. How can anyone possibly trust the Natural Resources Minister will champion the energy sector and get pipelines built when the forces of no are right at the top in his office?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
As I said a moment ago, our support for the energy sector reflects a balanced approach that ensures the environment is protected, all the while creating good, well-paying jobs for Canadians. We did
did in 1 year what the previous government couldn't do in a decade. We approved pipelines while at the same time protecting our oceans, pricing carbon pollution, and working with Indigenous peoples. We believe our approach positions Alberta and Canada's energy sector well to capitalize on economic opportunities going forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, well, we recently learned that the Natural Resource Minister's Chief of Staff is dead set against the oil and gas sector. Are the Liberals trying to save face with environmental groups? Well, too late. They already know that they've been abandoned by the Liberals. How can the Chief of Staff be responsible and impartial when dealing with oil and gas files, given everything that she said against this industry? Does this government want to see all energy sector workers out of a job? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we said last week in this House, we firmly support the oil and gas sector across this country, in Alberta, in Newfoundland and Labrador, and other parts of Canada. We understand the importance of our oil and gas sector to our economy, and we will continue to support it as we have since taking office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, municipalities are key partners when it comes to building the infrastructure that Canadians need. They own and operate most of our major transit networks and housing corporations. It's essential that cities have the tools they need to succeed and that they have an engaged federal partner. Can the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities please inform this House about how our government is working with cities to build better infrastructure across the country? Honourable Minister.
For his question, last week we welcomed 2,000 delegates of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to the annual conference here in Ottawa. Working together with these municipal leaders, we have announced 2,900 projects with a combined investment of $23 billion since taking office. FCM calls our 2017 budget a game changer for municipalities, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to work with them.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's tax and spend agenda is out of control, and Canadian businesses are scared, and rightfully so. Across this country, I've heard from craft brewers, distillers, winemakers, who are very concerned about the Liberals' never-ending excise tax increase. It's going to kill jobs, and it's going to hurt local, rural communities. Of course, the minister would have known that had he taken any time to consult with Canadians before moving ahead with this radical tax agenda. Mr. Speaker, before it's too late, will the minister do the right thing? Will he listen to these Canadian business owners and cork this tax?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to taxes, we know that we did the right thing by raising taxes on the top 1% and by lowering taxes on the middle class. We also know that making sure that we have a tax situation for corporate Canada that works is important. In the case of the question that was posed, what we've done, just to be clear, is make sure that the level of excise tax stays consistent over time, because in fact, inflation happens. In real terms, it means a tax will stay consistent over time, which is exactly what we've done, which we know is fair to Canadians and to the industry.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, in the 2017 budget, the government announced changes which will increase the excise tax for alcoholic beverages. This is a change that is going to hurt the industry in Canada, our wine and spirits producers. Along with having one of the highest taxes in the world, our winemakers are already suffering under CETA. This increase is going to endanger many jobs across the country. Why are the Liberals hurting this sector? Why did the Liberals not consult with this sector? It's not too late. They can cancel these changes today. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it's very important that we have a tax system that is effective and that it is fair and that works for Canadians and for our businesses. Our program will ensure that we have a fair system for companies. In the present case, we have introduced a measure which will work over the long term to ensure that we have a stable situation with inflation. It's going to work for industry.
On.
Mr. Speaker, as chair of the Environment and Sustainable Development Committee, I'm aware of the work the government is doing to improve and protect the environment for Canadians now and for generations to come. In my riding of King Vaughan, I'm proud of the continued investment in expanding the protected spaces. For example, Happy Valley Forest on the Oak Ridges Moraine. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change speak to the importance of World Environment Day?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the member from King Vaughan for her question and for her leadership as chair of the Environment Committee. Today we observe World Environment Day, and Canada is for the first time the host country for this global day of awareness. The theme of this year's World Environment Day, connecting people to nature, encourages us to get outdoors, appreciate healthy ecosystems that contribute to our well-being, and do our part to protect the planet we share. By continuing to work together with a common purpose around the world, including in addressing the critical issue of climate change and the Paris Agreement, we can and will leave our children and grandchildren with a world that is cleaner, healthier, and more prosperous.
Number 4, Barry Springwater Oro Medonti.
Mr. Speaker, American manufacturing is getting a lot more competitive. Recently, Procter & Gamble announced it'll be laying off 500 Canadian jobs and moving them to the States. This isn't happening because the American government is giving out boatloads of money to businesses. It's happening because of a systemic reduction of red tape and taxes. Mr. Speaker, when will the Liberals put Canadian workers ahead of these Liberal-made, job-killing taxes?
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, the member should know that growth is up, that exports are up, and that manufacturing is up. And job numbers are up as well. Since we formed government, Mr. Speaker, the unemployment rate was at 7.2%. Today, it's hovering around 6.5%. And over the last 8 months, that means 250,000 good quality, full-time, resilient jobs have been created. We have a plan for the economy. We're going to grow the economy, help the middle class, and those working hard to join it, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Quebec Cinema Gala was held in Montreal, and I'd like to congratulate the winners, all the nominees, and the organizers who make our films an essential voice for our culture. During the ceremony, Xavier Dolan openly criticized the CRTC. Its license renewal decision for Série Plus and Historia endangers the future of Quebec television production. Will the minister act to protect our culture and demand that the CRT review its decision? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We believe in the importance of arts and culture, and that's why we invested $1.9 billion in arts and culture in our 2016 budget, the biggest federal investment in 30 years. We are the only G7 country to have done that. Concerning the CRTC's decision, I would like to remind the member that the CRTC is independent, and I invite all those affected by this decision to make their voices heard. The Honourable Member for La Pointe-à-l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the CRTC's decision concerning Série Plus has already led to the cancellation of 3 Quebec television series. Our culture is under attack, and this Canadian institution is opening the door to similar license conditions for other broadcasters, and that means fewer productions in Quebec. If the minister doesn't want to act, and if the CRTC doesn't want to fulfill its mandate, what is Ottawa waiting for to transfer cultural powers to Quebec? You know, we believe in our culture. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. We believe in our culture as well, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we are acting. And I would also like to remind my colleague that we decided to show leadership on this issue, and we've held public consultations on the impact of the digital era on Canadian content. We'll be coming in with a new cultural policy in 2017, and I look forward to hearing my colleagues' comments on that policy. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we tried, but once again, this government is determined to ignore Quebec. As set out in C-44, the Infrastructure Bank will have Crown Corporation status and will take precedence over Quebec law and regulations. And that means it can even expropriate property. If that's not their intention, well, they should amend their law. Otherwise, it's clear that Ottawa once again wants to walk all over us. Last chance, will the government take away the exaggerated power from the Infrastructure Bank?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, the bank is being set with the same legal structure as many other Crown Corporation. I can assure the honourable member that any project undertaken by the bank will be required to follow all provincial, territorial, and municipal laws. We have committed to invest in infrastructure to support our provinces and municipalities. We will do that while respecting the local decision-making process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This concludes question period for today. I know you're all disappointed. We can clear out a bit. Tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and pursuant to Standing Orders 32.2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaties entitled Convention on Jurisdiction, Applicable Law, Recognition, Enforcement, and Cooperation in respect of parental responsibility and measures for the protection of children adopted at Geneva on October 19, 1996. Also, Convention on the International Recovery of Child Support and Other Forms of Family Maintenance, adopted at Geneva on November 23, 2007. An explanatory memorandum is also included with each treaty. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before we proceed, if you can hear my voice, please say shh. Works every time. Perfect. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations.